Anyone can smile when life is good, when the dream is still alive, when your friends are beside you, when the people you love are safe. But Luffy smiled when everything was falling apart, and that smile wasn't happiness. It was defiance, because there are moments in life when smiling feels almost impossible. Moments when you lose someone, when your plans collapse, when the people you trusted disappear, when you finally realize you cannot control what happens next. And that's exactly where Luffy's smile becomes strange. Why smile then? Why laugh when your heart is breaking? Why keep that light inside you when the world keeps giving you reasons to become bitter? Maybe Luffy's smile was never about pretending that everything was okay. Maybe it was his way of refusing to let pain decide who he would become. Luffy didn't begin his journey as someone who understood suffering. He was reckless, loud, carefree. He chased freedom as if nothing in the world could ever take it from him. He laughed at danger. He challenged people far stronger than himself. He turned impossible situations into adventures. And perhaps that's why his pain hits harder, because the brighter someone is, the darker their fall can feel. Luffy didn't simply lose battles, he lost people. He watched friends suffer. He experienced betrayal. He saw dreams crushed. And eventually, he faced the kind of loss that didn't just hurt him. It broke his understanding of himself. Ace, the person Luffy had fought so desperately to save. The brother he believed he could protect. And then, he couldn't. The moment happened, and there was nothing he could do. No punch, no scream. No amount of determination could reverse it. For someone who believed so deeply in moving forward, and this was the first time the past became stronger than him, and that's where the smile disappeared. Not because Luffy suddenly became weak, because for once he had no answer. Think about what that kind of loss does to a person. You spend your entire life believing if I work hard enough, I can protect what matters. Then reality teaches you sometimes you can't. You can arrive too late. You can make the wrong decision. You can fight with everything you have and still lose. That's one of the most painful lessons adulthood teaches. Effort doesn't guarantee outcomes. Good intentions don't guarantee happy endings. Love doesn't guarantee permanence. Sometimes you can give everything, and still everything falls apart. That's where many people change. Some become bitter, some become cold, some stop caring, some convince themselves they never needed anyone, and some simply stop trying. But Luffy had another choice, and he almost missed it, because before he could stand again, he had to admit something terrifying. He was broken. There is something psychologically important about breaking. We are taught to hide it. Hide the tears. Hide the fear. Hide the weakness. Pretend you're okay. Say, I'm fine, even when you're not. But pretending you're strong doesn't make you strong. Sometimes it just makes your pain invisible. Luffy didn't recover by pretending Ace's death didn't matter. He didn't erase the grief. He didn't suddenly become fearless. He felt it fully. And that is important because strength isn't emotional numbness. Strength is being able to feel something deeply without allowing it to destroy your direction. You can miss someone and still continue. You can be devastated and still rebuild. You can cry and still fight tomorrow. Pain doesn't disqualify you from moving forward. Sometimes pain becomes the reason you finally understand what matters. But Luffy's story becomes even more interesting when you look at his relationship with freedom. Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want. Luffy represents something deeper. Freedom is being able to choose your response, even when circumstances are trying to choose it for you. The world can take your money, your reputation, your opportunities, your relationships, your plans. It can even take people you love. But there is one thing it cannot completely control: what you decide to become afterward. That's why Luffy's smile matters. It isn't saying nothing hurts, it's saying this hurts, but it doesn't own me. That's a completely different message. And maybe that's why his smile feels almost rebellious. The world expects pain to make you smaller. Luffy refuses. But before that smile could return, he had to face something even darker. He had to look at himself. Not the captain, not the future pirate king, not the fearless kid who challenged everyone, just Luffy. And he had to ask, am I still strong enough to continue? The answer was no, not yet. And admitting that was necessary, because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop pretending you're okay. Stop pretending you don't care. Stop pretending you aren't hurt. Stop pretending you don't need help. The moment you acknowledge the wound, you can finally treat it. You can't heal something you're constantly denying exists. Maybe you're doing the same thing. Maybe you've been smiling, not because you're happy, because you don't know what else to do. You joke around, you act normal, you talk to people, you go to work, you go to school, you scroll through your phone, you laugh at things. And then, when you're alone, everything becomes quiet. And the thoughts come back. The failure, the person who left, the opportunity you lost, the dream you abandoned, the version of yourself you don't recognize anymore. Nobody sees that part because you've become good at smiling. But here's the difference between pretending and Luffy. Eventually, his smile became real again, not because the pain disappeared, because he found something worth continuing for. And that distinction changes everything. Luffy's pain didn't tell him, forget Ace. It told him, remember what Ace meant. That's different. Grief can become a chain or a compass. A chain keeps you facing backward. A compass gives the pain direction. And Luffy chose direction. He still had his crew. He still had his dream. He still had promises. He still had people who believed in him. And suddenly, the question wasn't, how do I get back what I lost? He couldn't. The question became, what do I do with what I still have? That is where recovery begins. Not when everything is restored. When you stop demanding that the past return and start building with what remains. This is something people rarely talk about. Sometimes healing isn't getting your old life back. Sometimes your old life is gone. The relationship won't return. The opportunity won't return. The person won't return. The version of you before the pain won't return either. And that's okay, because healing doesn't always mean restoration. Sometimes it means reconstruction. You take the ruins, the broken pieces, the memories, the scars, the lessons, and you build something different, something stronger, something that couldn't have existed before the destruction. Luffy had to do that. He couldn't become the same person again. He had already seen too much. He had lost too much. But that didn't mean his story was over. It meant the next version of him had to be built. And that's where his smile becomes more powerful. Before, he smiled because life was an adventure. After, he smiled because life was still worth choosing. There's a difference. The first smile comes from innocence. The second comes from understanding. One is effortless, the other is earned. Anyone can be happy when everything is going right. But there is something almost frightening about someone who can look at a terrible situation, feel the pain, understand the risk, and still choose hope. Not blind hope, not childish optimism, a conscious decision. I know life can hurt me, I'm still going to live. That's strength. Maybe that's what you've forgotten. You think you need your old happiness back. You think you need life to become easier. You think you need everyone who left to return. You think you need the perfect opportunity again. But maybe you don't need the old life. Maybe you need a new reason to move. Because sometimes the person you become after losing something is stronger than the person who had it. Loss can reveal what comfort hides. Failure can expose what success never teaches. Loneliness can show you who you actually are when nobody is validating you. And pain can force you to answer a question you avoided for years. What do I really want? Luffy's answer was never simply, I want to win. It was deeper. He wanted freedom. He wanted his friends beside him. He wanted to live according to his own will. And because that mattered so much, pain couldn't permanently stop him. This is the secret. Purpose doesn't remove suffering. It makes suffering survivable. When you know why you're moving, you can tolerate a much harder road. Without purpose, even small problems feel unbearable. With purpose, you can walk through storms, you can lose, you can restart, you can fail, you can spend months rebuilding. Because you know what you're walking toward, and maybe you're tired because you're moving without a reason. You're working, but you don't know why. You're improving, but you're comparing yourself to everyone else. You're chasing success, but you don't even know what success means to you. So every failure feels like proof that you should quit. Luffy's story asks something different. What if your goal isn't to become someone impressive? What if it's simply to become someone who can live without betraying himself? Someone who can protect what matters? Someone who can keep his word? Someone who can wake up and know, this life is mine. That's freedom, and sometimes freedom begins when you stop living according to what pain tells you. But Luffy's story wasn't finished after Ace, because surviving one loss doesn't mean you're healed forever. The scars remain, the fear remains, the possibility of losing again remains. And that's where the real test begins. Because anyone can say, I'll keep going. The harder question is, what happens when life hurts me again? Will you close your heart? Will you stop trusting? Will you stop dreaming? Will you become the person pain tried to create? Or will you keep your humanity? Because the world can hurt you. That's unavoidable. The real battle is making sure it doesn't turn you into someone you never wanted to become. Luffy could have become bitter. He had enough reasons. He could have blamed himself. He could have hated the world. He could have decided that caring was weakness. Instead, he cared more carefully. He trained harder. He valued his crew more deeply. He understood the cost of losing, and eventually the smile returned. Not the same smile, a stronger one. A smile that had already seen darkness. A smile that knew what grief felt like. A smile that had survived the moment when everything stopped making sense. And that's why it mattered, because now it wasn't ignorance. It was choice. Maybe that's the kind of smile you need. Not the smile that says, everything is perfect. The smile that says, everything is difficult and I'm still here. Because surviving isn't always dramatic. Sometimes survival looks like getting out of bed, trying again, answering the message, returning to the gym, opening the book, starting the project, making the call, taking one more step when you don't feel like taking any. Nobody applauds that, but it matters because every small act of resistance tells your mind, pain didn't finish me. And maybe that's what Luffy's smile really represents. Not happiness, not ignorance, not weakness. Defiance, a refusal to let the worst thing that happened to him become the definition of who he is. But there is still a deeper question. What happens when you stop fighting pain and start carrying it? What happens when the scar becomes part of your identity without becoming your entire identity? Because that's where Luffy's smile becomes something more than optimism. It becomes freedom. And in the next part, we go deeper into the moment when Luffy's greatest losses stop being chains and become the very reason he refuses to live a smaller life. Because sometimes the strongest smile isn't the one that appears when the pain is gone. It's the one that appears when the pain is still there and you choose to move anyway. The pain didn't disappear. That's the part people forget. Luffy didn't wake up one morning and suddenly become okay. Ace was still gone. The memories were still there. The guilt was still there. The fear of losing someone again was still there, but something had changed. Luffy had stopped waiting for the pain to disappear before allowing himself to live. And that is a terrifying kind of strength, because most people put their life on hold. I'll be happy when I heal. I'll start when I feel confident. I'll move forward when I'm over it. But what if you're waiting for something that may never completely disappear? What if some wounds don't vanish? What if they simply become quieter? Then you have a choice. Spend the rest of your life staring at the wound, or learn how to walk with it. Luffy chose to walk. He didn't erase Ace from his life. He carried him, every lesson, every memory, every promise, every painful reminder of how helpless he had once felt. But he didn't turn that pain into hatred. And that's important because pain wants to simplify the world. It tells you, trust nobody, love nobody, never care again. If you don't attach yourself to anyone, nobody can hurt you. It sounds like protection, but it's actually another kind of prison because yes, if you stop caring, you may suffer less, but you also live less. Luffy refused that bargain. He understood something brutal. To love people is to accept the possibility of losing them. To dream is to accept the possibility of failure. To live freely is to accept uncertainty. And he chose all of it anyway. That is courage, not the absence of risk, the willingness to live despite it. Think about what happens after someone hurts you. The first instinct is often to build walls. You become colder. You stop trusting. You stop expecting anything. You tell yourself, I don't need anyone. And for a while, it feels powerful. You feel protected. Nothing can disappoint you if you expect nothing. But eventually you realize the wall didn't only keep pain out, it kept life out too. Luffy could have built that wall. He had enough reasons. Instead, he kept opening the door. He kept